now. So, all right. So first we have welcome to Not So Private Parts. Thank you for sharing your story. For all the people who are going to be watching and listening and reading and all that other kind of stuff. Not So Private Parts is a blog centered around removing the shame and stigma from women's issues. And today we have Aimee Raupp. That's how I say it, right?
That's how you say
it.
Yay,
I did it! Yay! She's an acupuncturist, women's health expert, fertility specialist, herbalist, author of Yes, You Can Get Pregnant. Is that correct? There we go.
That's correct.
And just an overall dope mama of one. How old is your baby?
He is 8 months. Well, on the first, he'll be 8 months. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, my little one is 8 months as well.
Oh, yay!
So, yeah. So congrats on that.
It's a fun time. Yeah, congrats to you too.
Yeah. How are you sleeping?
Well, I mean, I'm very fortunate. We have a wonderful nanny who does spend a couple nights over a week. So because awesome. When I go to work, I make sure she sleeps over so I can be well rested. Wow. But he does sleep pretty well. We just came back from California, so he's a little. He was off. He was up from 3:30 to 5:30 last night.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he's getting like about 8 to 10 hours of solid sleep.
That's awesome.
How about your little one?
I see sleep in the horizon.
It's
not here. It's not here yet.
It's coming very soon.
Yeah, it's like it's over there somewhere. I can almost touch it, but it's just like hanging out in the corner, Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's where we are with sleep.
Yeah,
so.
I put a dollar sign on my sleep, and I was like, she is worth the extra amount of pay to sleep over.
Yes.
So I feel like I've been spoiled, but I also feel like because I'm now 41, but had been in the world of fertility for so long and working with so many women who have gone through motherhood, that I've learned to have help, and is really important. And that for my sanity, it's like the most important thing. So I felt like age is wisdom in that sense too, where I was wiser coming into this as a new mother and saying, and also I'm an entrepreneur and my own business and all of that. And I set my hours and, so I could have adjusted, but it was just like my sleep is really important and having support is really important. So, about 2 to 3 nights a week, we get solid sleep. And then I also have a really supportive husband who gets up. He loves to get up in the middle of the night on the weekends and hang out with his boys. So, so we get sleep.
Well, it's a good thing. I mean, I think it's all about self-care.
It is. It really is.
I think as moms, sometimes we're like made to feel guilty in a weird way. Like,
or I even see it. I see it that women, they'll call themselves martyrs behind closed doors to me, that they are ashamed of asking for help, or like a nanny is just such a luxury. And I was on a panel a while ago at She Summit, which is a yearly women's empowerment, amazing summit. And I was on this panel with Dr. Harvey Karp, who's a pediatrician, and he wrote the Happiest Baby book.
We read it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome guy. And James was it was my first like live appearance. I think he was just 5 weeks old or something like that. Yeah. And I was in a conversation and Harvey heard me and I said something about like, oh, I have help. But I said it like very sheepishly. And he pulled me aside afterwards and he said, do you have shame around the fact that you have help? And I've never met.
You're like, how do I answer that?
It's a little like, and I'm still so freaking hormonal, right? And it's the first time I'm leaving my baby. And I started to cry and I said, I think I do have a little shame around having help. And he said, do you know that women used to have like 8 nannies? He's like, they were called aunts and grandmothers.
That's what they were called. Yeah.
He's like, but they were nannies and no woman did it alone ever. He's like, in recent times, we think we have to do it all ourselves. He said, but no woman ever did it alone. So don't you, and he said to me, he's like, you're a role model to women. So don't you dare carry shame around having help. And so it's become since then, that conversation, it became a bit of my mission to be like, ask for help.
Good.
Pay for help. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like, because you're worth it.
Tell me, you're worth it. And also like keeping your identity with your career, I think is a really important, for me, very important as a wife, as a mother, as, a role model, like all of these things. So anyway.
No, I totally agree. I think that's funny. I had the same conversation with another mama literally yesterday, how back in the day, we definitely, I think I hear the baby, John Jackson. There we go. We have a little one that just woke up from a nap, of course.
Hi.
You might want to run and get him. I was having the same conversation literally yesterday with, a friend of mine. And she was saying, how we literally, I don't know, like we have this definitely shame. We have shame about taking care of ourselves.
Exactly.
And it's like, no, we're important. And if we don't take that time for ourselves, then no one is good. Like, no one benefits.
No one.
So
But that's it. There was,
have
you seen those Lincoln Town Car or something, Lincoln car commercials with Matthew McConaughey, and there's a catchphrase that they're using that says, when taking care of you takes care of everyone else.
Yes.
And I've been using it, and in fact, the next book I'm working on, that's going to be a big part of it, of just like, we have to nurture ourselves in order to be good enough then to take care of everyone else. But if we leave ourselves out of the equation, we just fall apart,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, okay. So let's jump into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We know you're an acupuncturist and all things women's fertility and all that, but tell us about you and your awesomeness.
So I've been in this field practicing. So acupuncture is one part of Chinese medicine. I do Chinese medicine, which is acupuncture, herbs, lifestyle. And I've been practicing that for like 11 years. Okay. And I love it, Okay. But I'm very much an entrepreneur. So it's not only, am I a healer in many ways, but then I'm also a businesswoman, and that's been a big driving force in my life. And I always have a million pots boiling. So then I was like, well, I'm going to write books, and then I'm going to start an organic skincare line. And
I saw that online.
And I have all these things that I also do, and I have 2 clinics, and I have 3 associates that work under me, and we see lots of patients every week. And I'm also branching into online, so I do a lot of online coaching for women all over the world for fertility. I have group coaching, for women, like 6 to 8 women. I keep them in small groups for group support for fertility, and I have like a 4-part series, and so I'm doing all these other things as well. So outside of the clinic, but and then I'm also a wife and a mother,
which is a hat in and of itself.
And those are both brand new roles for me. My husband and I are just coming up on our 1-year wedding anniversary. We, I got knocked up before I was married, and but intentionally, because I had just turned 40. Yeah. And we were talking about getting engaged, and I said, well, I'd also just like to start trying for a baby, because I do what I do for a living. Like, I know we're going to get into this in a little bit, but I do see, of course, age affects fertility on a small level. Like, it does decline as we age. There's no denying that. However, not nearly as significant as the Western world makes us think. No. But with me, we had this, our grand vision is 2 children. And so I said, well, if we're going to want 2, and I just turned 40, we better get on it, And so anyway, we got pregnant like our 2nd month of trying naturally, which was awesome. And then we got married. I was 5 months pregnant. We got married. And so anyway, the role of a wife and a mother are both brand new for me. And all of it. And I love being a wife. Oh, so much. I love my, we have a beautiful marriage, and we're so, he's so special to me. And then now having a family is just, it's a dream come true. It's something I always wanted. And it just took me a while to find my guy. But I believe that I was truly supported in that path, because I wouldn't have been able to, write, my first book came out when I was, 35 or 36, Chill Out and Get Healthy, which was just a guide for women overall on how to improve their health. And then my second book, Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, came out. It'll be 2 years in June. Yeah, 2 years in June. And so I wouldn't have been able to do either of those things. I think, not I wouldn't have, because I'm writing my next book now, and I am a wife and a mother. But it there was a nice time frame for me to focus on those things. Yes. And then, and just being where I'm at now, I feel so in such a good place to become a mother and a wife now. So just balancing it all is really fun for me.
It is such a balance, I think. Like, I think with all the different roles that we play, I love how you are making sure that you keep who you are.
I have to, right?
Yeah.
It's also, that's, and this is something I always say in the clinic. And then I also have women who have been clients of mine that are older and are role models to me that raised their kids and maintained a healthy marriage. And the biggest message I've gotten from them is to maintain who you are, because that's the woman your husband fell in love with.
Yeah.
And then that's also the woman I think you want to portray to your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want him to know that, I am a rock star, and I bust my ass, and I'm proud of every single thing I do.
Yeah.
And like he was just sitting at the kitchen counter. I was like, before we got on this call, I was making anti-aging facial oil and body butter because I'm preparing for our Mother's Day sale, and I still make all my own beauty products, which is insane. That's about to be delegated off because I'm ready for bigger. But everything's handmade, and so I always joke with him as I'm making it in front of him that it's his college fund. I'm like, "This is your college fund, buddy." So he gets really excited. He has no idea what I'm saying. But he's like,
it's a college fund. It sounds good.
I can't wait.
I love it.
Yeah, so I try to involve them, and and then we have fun.
Well, I think kids feed off of that. They know when their mothers are happy.
Yeah, exactly.
And they know when we're not. And it's
like,
if we're not fulfilled, how can we pass on anything to anyone else?
That's it. It's so important to me.
Yeah, I call it oxygen. It's like, how you're in, how you're in the airplane and they always say, okay, put your oxygen mask on first. In the event something happens, and then you give it to everyone else. And I think it's the same with motherhood. It's like we have to be able to take care of ourselves in order to
I agree.
Do anything for anyone else.
Exactly.
So, okay, so tell me about belief-based medicine, and what role does it play in fertility exactly?
Well, and we kind of just came up with that term. I shouldn't say we. I came up with that term.
Yes.
It's like we, as in my marketing team, really likes it. But yes, I bought the URL, I think, over a year ago.
Super cool.
Hope-based medicine and belief-based medicine. Because, so in my book, Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, the reigning theme or mantra throughout the book is, I have the power to change my health and improve my fertility. Okay. And so what I noticed over all my years of practicing, and then in particular with women dealing with fertility challenges. As a side note, I do not use the word infertility. I think it's a horrible word.
Yes,
it's very negative. It makes women feel like they're broken, and they're not.
They're not.
So what I started to see was that women felt very broken. They felt very disempowered. They felt like their fertility was not in their hands, and it was in their doctor's hands, or they were screwed because they were old, quote unquote. A 28-year-old feels old, a 35-year-old, every woman is concerned about her age when it comes to fertility. And all of, and I'm a very spiritual person, and I've done a lot of work myself, and really truly believe in the power of words and the power of thought and the power of our beliefs and how they shift our life and our reality. And one thing I always say to my clients, it's a big drive home, is our beliefs dictate our behavior, and our behavior dictates, I always say our health, but it really dictates our life, right? So if we have these strong beliefs, like we could use the example of I'm too old, or my eggs are bad, or, I waited too long, or my husband didn't want to have children, so it's his fault that I have fertility. So from those beliefs that are very, very deeply, ingrained in us, we then choose behavior. So what tends to happen is, I won't curse. Can I curse?
Yes, you can. This is a very freeing
You have this behavior of, I'm too old, my eggs suck, right? So fuck it. I'm just going to eat whatever the hell I want, and I'm not going to take good care of myself.
Absolutely.
And then my health is a result of that, right? So your belief affects your behavior, and your behavior affects your health. Your fertility is an extension of your health.
Yeah.
everything is an extension of your health, really. Your ability to sleep, your ability to digest, your ability to move, have energy. Everything is a function of your behavior, basically. Yeah. So, and your beliefs affect your behavior. And, so that's kind of how belief-based medicine came to. It was given birth to, from that idea that we really have the power to shift our health, and that will then improve our fertility. And so if I have one goal, with my clients, it's to impart that to them, that they have the power over this, and sure, maybe we have low ovarian reserve. Maybe we have, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Maybe we have this diagnosis of some sort. But it still doesn't mean that you can't shift your health, and even if, I always say to women, with, like, say, poor ovarian reserve as a diagnosis, it doesn't mean you have 2 eggs left. You still have a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand. We're born with millions. So we can't maybe change the quantity of eggs you have left, but we can for sure improve the quality. Because those eggs develop and mature inside your body. So they're just sitting there in some reserve tank, right, until they need to be recruited. Exactly. And then for 100 days, they're growing up, basically, and maturing inside your body, inside the pH of your body, and how much sugar and how many toxins and, like parabens and BPAs, all of that influences that egg. Absolutely. Influences every cell in your body.
Stuff that we're exposed to every day, it seems like. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it also is influenced by, right, we know stress affects our health. It's proven, it's scientifically proven. And so our beliefs really dictate the amount of stress we have in our life, right? Yeah. So anyway, for me, it's always going back to this core and trying to get women, what I see is really just trying to get women to love themselves enough to feel worthy enough of making choices that support their health and their fertility. Absolutely. And even if that's, like, I love myself enough and feel worthy enough. And sometimes my husband feels a little, he gives me pushback on it. But, to pay the extra whatever amount of money I pay my nanny to sleep over 3 nights a week. Yes. That's worth it to me. You know what I mean? Like, that's worth it to my health. Yeah. And I'm worthy of it. And I know I can make the money. Do you know what I mean? Like, but that's because I believe in me. So at the core, I think at the core of belief-based medicine is teaching people how to love and respect themselves enough to feel worthy enough of proper behavior to support themselves,
Wow, I've never heard it put like that before, actually. I mean, even we throw out self-care a lot. We always throw it out, but really it comes down to really feeling worthy. That I'm worthy to eat certain foods. I'm worthy to only put certain things on my body. I'm worthy to actually, I need the nanny to sleep over 3 nights a week so I can sleep. I'm
worthy to educate myself and make the right decisions to support me, So it's like, wow. But I do. I believe, through all my work and all the teachers I follow and what I've been taught and what resonates most with me is worthiness and that's rooted in self-love, really. So it's like self-care really should be self-love. And so basically. And I call it in my book, because then I have all these recommendations like don't eat gluten and no soy and, all of these things. And it becomes, it's strict in a way. And so that's hard for women because they're like, well, if you want me to feel good, like I want to eat sugar, that feels good. And, so I say, well, let's look at it then as my self-love health mission. So what is, what's going to feel good now, but also in 24 hours? Because if you eat that sugar and feel really good about it and don't regret it and don't feel guilty, then by all means you should eat it. If you eat it, though, and you beat yourself up about it for the next 3 days, that sugar is going to do so much more harm to you. Then, one of my teachers says, if you eat something and you feel really good about it and enjoy every second of it, it probably won't be bad for you. But if you eat it and you feel really guilty about it, it's going to do a lot of damage.
Wow.
And I think that's just something to really ponder.
Yeah, that's wow.
So if you're gonna have ice cream or a slice of pizza, I always say like love it to pieces, and like enjoy every. But that's important for food in general. Like enjoy every morsel, be grateful for it, be present to it. And if you are, then you start to really see, food is medicine and your vitality and but any choice, not just food.
Well, I
fat
think it's
beauty thoughts, all those things.
I think it's good to even remember that because, I mean, there's so many fads that go on with food even, like gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, all those different things. I know for me, like, my husband airs more to a raw vegan.
Right.
But I know for me, like, I've never really labeled myself because I know the moment I do that, I'm going to say, I want that.
I want a burger.
I want a burger. It's going to happen. And then you're going to feel horrible.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No.
But, I think we make choices. Like, I'm a meat eater, and I recommend it, but only if it's grass-fed, only if it's pastured, only from good sources, Raw vegan works, but in moderation. Just you know what I mean? Like it's like everything has to be in moderation, and
I believe so.
Balance.
Yeah.
When we come to, someone used the term yesterday in the clinic. An orthotarian, I think, is the word they use, which means you're too orthodox in your eating style. So you're like too regimented. That's a form of an eating disorder.
It really, it
really
can
is because it's control. And everybody has it. Like. And I can be like that too. Like I don't eat much sugar. I don't eat soy. But like once in a while I'll have it and I understand I'm going to pay the price for it. But, I had an eating disorder. So I probably resist going back to that extremely regimented place.
Yeah.
But you can see that people use those labels too a lot of times to stay in the safe zone of what they can eat so they can limit it,
Yeah, I totally agree. Question. Okay. So what would be... If you had a woman that came into, you have women that come into your practice all the time.
All the time.
What would be your first advice to her if say for example, she went to a doctor and they said, oh, you have no eggs, or which is totally impossible, or they're having difficulty, getting pregnant.
Yeah.
What would be your first
I think it goes
to
back to, talking to them about the power. So one of the first things I always ask every new patient is, do you believe you're going to have this baby or a baby? Have you always seen your life with children or not? And, to date, I'd say 99.8% of those women answer with the word yes. Some are through tears. Some are loud, positive yeses, so it's a yes on a spectrum, but it's always a yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so from there, then, I usually use like my Deepak Chopra isms on them, and I say, okay, so we know we're going to get to point B, and right now we're at point A, which is without children, but we know we're going to get to, or we really believe it, because that's the belief, right? The belief-based medicine. And so however there's a million possible ways we can get there. So we have to surrender a little bit, and because a lot of women come in and they're really stuck on the time frame of like when and how, or they're stuck on age, or they're stuck on, no eggs left, that kind of thing. So, and then I just break it down to them that even if you have 4 eggs left, we can improve the quality of those 4 eggs. And all we need is one good one, right? So that there is a possibility and there is hope. And, so I think, my biggest message would be to not give up hope, to always believe in their body. Because what happens is they lost the belief in their body. They believe that they're infertile and they're broken, right? So they hand it over to their doctors. And my teachings is to take back the power, and that our fertility is not separate from our health. Yes. When I break it down for women like that, that really makes sense to them, where, I'll say to them, okay, so I still look, I had a call this morning with a new client and like a Skype interview, and, she has migraines and she has diarrhea almost on a daily basis, right? So I said to her, I'm not going to focus on fertility because there's no real hardcore measurements of fertility, right? We can guesstimate how many eggs are left, but those numbers change all the time.
Yeah.
So those numbers are not set in stone by any means. Like your FSH or AMH changes all the time. The science is constantly changing around them. I don't really give them any credit anymore. Like I just don't even pay attention to those numbers. But what we can pay attention to is you get migraines with your period and you have loose bowel movements every day. So something's not right in your health. So I call them the kinks in the system. I need to fix those kinks. And when those kinks start to, shift, when I see the migraines go away, you start having healthy bowel movements every day. Yeah. I know your health is starting to thrive. And as an extension of your health, your fertility thrives. And it's really nice for women. I've noticed this, that when I tell them to focus on something else, it just like takes a lot of pressure off of them, because every day they're just in their head about their fertility.
Yeah.
But now they can like pay attention to their bowel movements and be like, oh my God, I had a
I pooped. I didn't poop a lot.
And it's like, okay, so the dietary changes are working, right? So then they feel more supported on that path, right? Yeah. So it's really, I think it's important to step back and remember that fertility is an extension of health. They are not separate. You are not just, your uterus and your ovaries, like not at all. You are fully functioning, capable human being. And it's not a switch that goes on or off. It's something that is on a spectrum. And so maybe you're fertility challenged right now. Maybe you're low fertility right now, but you can improve that, And so I think, long story short, that's the biggest message, that they have the power to make a shift in their health and their fertility.
Wow. Tell me this. I know you mentioned that with belief-based medicine that it really doesn't matter about your age. Tell me this. Do you feel that there is a stigma behind advanced maternal age, and what 100%. Are you and what are you doing to remove that?
Same thing, I think, just to go back to, there's a lot of research now. So I do throw a lot of science, especially in my book, there's a lot of science too. There's the field of epigenetics, it's called. So it's, we used to believe that our genetics were set in stone, right? So like if, mom had a miscarriage, maybe you would, or if dad had heart disease, you might get it, or cancer or whatever. Now that's no longer the case. There's only like 2% of diseases are heritable, which means that you can actually pass them on from one person to the next. And it's like some serious ones like MS and things like that. Yeah. So fertility challenges are not inherited, which a lot of women will come in and be like, well, my mom had trouble. Really has nothing to do with it. But so if we look at epigenetics, what epigenetics shows us is that, yes, you might have those genes, you might have that predisposition, but how you live your life influences whether those genes turn on or turn off. So whether they actually express themselves or not is totally up to your lifestyle, 100%. So that means sleep, that means stress, that means diet, that means exercise, that means, I think mindfulness, meditation, anything like that. And then now based on the branch of epigenetics, now there's all this amazing research going on about how our cells in our body shift in response to things like happy thoughts versus negative thoughts versus sleeping 8 hours versus not sleeping versus too much caffeine versus pesticides, all these things. And if you step back and realize, okay, so we can fight the aging process in our cells, meaning we can make our cells healthier even though we're increasing in number of years old we are, right? But our cells can actually get healthier. Then to look to it, the ovaries and the eggs inside of them, those are just made up of the same cells in your body that are in your skin and in your eyes, So yes, we do decline with age. Like that's just a normal process, but we don't have to decline nearly as fast as we think. And we can actually get older in years. Well, I should say this one way. Chronological age and physiological age can be very different. So the number of years old you are versus the health of your cells can be very different. And you can really improve the health of your cells as you age. So, I think, right, I had an eating disorder in my 20s. In that, like 35 is when I really got into all this stuff I talk about. So maybe 34. So like the last 6 years, I'd say I'm really like living this message, It's like when my first book came out and I started to I changed all bath and beauty products, my food, all that. I really truly believe my cells are healthier now than they were back in my 20s. Like I know it, I feel still, I think cellularly, I'm probably 35, maybe 34, so that's probably why I got pregnant so easily. And I'm not bragging. I'm really just trying to say, like, I practiced what I preached and it worked. And so that's really, and so a lot of women still feel like, well, I don't have enough time to undo all the damage. And maybe that's true. So maybe we use a little bit of Western medicine and my approach and, we get there faster and easier. But, but again, there is a lot of stigma. Doctors say women over the age of 35, basically only 60% of them will get pregnant after 1 year of trying. They say 1 in 3 will not get pregnant, right? So 33% will not get pregnant. Yeah. 66% will get pregnant. The science does not support that. It's more like 88% will get pregnant after 1 year of trying. And then between 35 and 40, it kind of goes down to like 82%. Goes to about 78% over the, like between 40 and 42. So 78% of women between the ages of 40 and 42 get pregnant naturally, have a baby after 1 year of trying, so
yeah,
a lot of doctors say, I think I've heard recently something like 5 to 10% of women will get pregnant naturally over the age of 40. And, that's just, it's flat out a lie. There's no science to support it whatsoever. And you have to remember the statistics that they might be spewing at you are statistics from fertility clinics. So they're already women that are struggling.
Yeah.
They're not looking at the entire population. Gotcha. Even if we go to like African countries, women get pregnant in their 50s all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And in Chinese medicine, we say up until 49, we should be able to still get pregnant naturally. If we live in accordance with the Tao is what we say. So that means in accordance with nature. And
gotcha.
we don't live in accordance with nature at all, even like us right now.
Yeah.
We have too much screen time, like everything's kind of off. So I have a whole chapter in my book about getting back in touch with nature and like the steps you can take in a modern society to reconnect to nature and how important that is for your fertility and really just for your health,
Wow. Okay. You're kind of like, you're kind of blowing my mind here just a little bit. I think that there's I have friends that are older, and by older, I mean like not really older at all, but society has made them to feel like, oh, I'm over 35. I'm over 36. I had a friend, no joke, who, she was pregnant at 36 years old, and the doctor was treating her as if she were like
46. Yeah.
Older, actually, like 50. And it's like, what the heck? It's like this huge, like, stigma that, you have to hurry up. And it's almost, I think it creates a panic in women.
Well, it does. That's it. So the fear, and then they're disempowered, right?
Yeah.
And then they're panicked. And it's like the stress does not help. So it's like, I never want to say stress causes fertility challenges, but I don't think it helps at all, And what comes first, the chicken or the egg? It's a very vicious cycle. But I agree. I mean, even for me, my gynecologist, their team is amazing, and they refer clients to me all the time. And so when I went in for an appointment and I said, we're going to start trying, do you want to test my FSH and my, like maybe we should do the preliminary test because I had just turned 40, so even though I have all this knowledge and all this, I'm human too, right? There's a little bit inside of me that was like, I hope this works. I hope what I've been telling everybody to do actually works and my gynecologist said to me, no, I'm not doing any of those tests. She said, what would you say to your patient? And I said, I would tell them to just try naturally for at least, 3 to 6 months. 6 months is kind of the cutoff over 35, I think, just because I just like to, I'm also a scientist at heart. I'm a scientist. Then I became an acupuncturist. So I do like numbers. I do like to see, and then, not necessarily FSH or AMH, but just like your thyroid, like things like that I like to see. But so anyway, she said, no, I will not test that. Go home and have sex. And then I got pregnant, like not the first month, but the second month. And my whole team, there was one doctor on the team that gave me a hard time. She told me, such a jerk. At the end of the pregnancy, she said, well, you're going to have to start coming in now every week for, ultrasounds. And I said, why? So you can do the Doppler. I don't need an ultrasound. And she's like, well, because of your age, there's an increased risk of stillbirth. I was just like,
it's like, okay.
She did not
really
just say that to me. And then, of course, she was the doctor that was on duty when I was in labor. And my labor was very, how would you call it? Like delayed. There was just, he just wasn't descending. I kept dilating, but like nothing was happening. And every time she came in the room, she was like, well, it's your age and the age of your placenta.
You're like, thank you. Thank you for the
like, shove it up here. But
well, I mean, it's already been proven that, I remember I read, when we were about to give birth, I was reading all the hypnobirthing books and all that. And the author gave an example of this one woman who literally her labor stalled because
I know this because of the stress of the doctor. That's Ina May's book. I love that book, Ina May Garten.
And it's true.
Your cervix actually closes back up with stress. Yeah. I just asked her to stay out of the room.
I need you to leave. You're like, I need you to leave.
Well, I just said to my husband, I said, I don't want her back. And then he said to the nurses, and I liked the nurses. Good. I said, you just stay in. And then my doctor finally came on, and that was fine because she's awesome. But,
wow.
And then everything progressed. So,
of course it did.
Yeah.
Because she left.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stigma. And, I'll be the first to say, though, it's like if I get a woman who's 45, I do feel a little bit of pressure to get her pregnant fast because I think 45 in our modern society is probably more the realistic cutoff point. Mm-hmm. If we were living in a village in Africa and eating from the earth and sleeping with the sun and all of that.
It'd be different.
But I think 44, 45, we start to, getting naturally pregnant gets more challenging. We might need assisted reproductive techniques. But I think, I just had this conversation yesterday with a client of mine who just turned 40 and wants to start for her second. And I really think 42 is like, you know what I mean? Like between 40 and 42, I think you still have a good solid window. Yeah. Then if you're still in really good health, then like my oldest pregnancy, 45, 44 naturally, 45 with an IUI, which is just an intrauterine insemination, so it's not an IVF. And then I've had plenty of IVFs like everywhere in the spectrum, but age-wise. But I do believe it can happen, and we just have to be really diligent about how we take care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes back
and patience. Patience is a big part here, and that's I live in New York. Most women are impatient, including myself, So, and we have timelines, things have to get done on our clock, so fertility nature doesn't really work on a timeline like that. And so surrender and trust are really big components to, I think, every aspect of life, but especially when you're trying to get pregnant.
Yeah. And it's so beyond us. I think childbirth, pregnancy, all that is so like.
Well, and if you get, spiritual on it, it's like the spirit chooses you and knows when they're coming. So you better just sit back, relax, and enjoy your life.
It's so beyond us.
You can't force that spirit in, you know?
No, you can't.
So there's that too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I have 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
One of them, we talk about some random stuff at Not So Private Parts, like periods and menopause and miscarriage and pregnancy and pooping on the table and all those fun things. Do you have an embarrassing period story?
So I I was thinking about it because I did get those questions beforehand, and I'm like, I don't think I do. Yeah.
Or an embarrassing pregnancy story.
Well, I do have one of those.
Okay.
So we got my membrane stripped.
Okay.
Because I was delayed. I was 10 days post-date. And so at like 8 days post-date, they went in for a cervical check and she could reach the membrane. So she said, do you mind? And I said, no, it wasn't that bad at all. And we went home and, we're both like off of work, like going crazy. My husband's in like the back of the house. And I was doing something in the bathroom, probably getting together my little bag or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I peed myself,
Oh, yeah, just, why not?
But I thought my water broke, so we go to the hospital. I'm like, my water broke,
Like, no.
Like, and it's so funny. The valet guy checking it, because we're at New York, right? So there's a valet guy at the at the hospital.
You're good.
So, and he's a sweet little man. We get out of the car, and he looks at my husband, and he's like, I'm just going to tell you right now, she's not in labor. He's like, I see women in labor all day long. He's like, she's not in labor. And I'm like, no. And I was really defensive. I'm like, my water just broke. And he's like, girlfriend, you are not in labor. He's like, I'll see you guys in about 30 minutes. And I was so pissed.
We
get in the elevator. I'm like, whatever. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, I'm the fertility expert. And my husband.
Surely you know if you're in labor.
So we get upstairs and whatever. They're like, yeah, no, you're not in labor. You basically like all this like hoopla, all these tests. You peed yourself, and I texted everybody. I'm like, we're on the way to the hospital. I just, the the whole thing. And no, I peed myself. And so then 2 days later is when we actually went to the hospital. But so that's a really funny story.
That's
and it happens all the time. But women really don't share it unless it's happened. You know, unless you share your story, then they're like, yeah, that totally happened to me.
Well, it's easy to pee on yourself when you're pregnant. I mean, it
never happened to me, at least as far as I know, through the whole pregnancy. So that day, and then it was like the membranes, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. Yeah. I mean, because I was feeling like random contractions, but really nothing was going on. I just peed myself.
You just peed on yourself. Sorry. That's it. That's all. So did you text everyone back and be like, okay, so.
Yeah, I texted, I was totally honest. I said, false alarm, I peed myself.
That's it. Just urine. Just urine. It's everywhere. Sorry.
No baby, just urine.
Just urine. Awesome.
So that was an embarrassing story, but, period-wise, I think I've been fairly fortunate,
That's good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I've only had one, and that happened in high school, and I blocked it.
Yeah, I feel like because I haven't had bad periods. I've kind of been fortunate, but
yeah.
But I feel like there was like a time either in high school or in graduate school. I remember bleeding through onto a chair and being like mortified. Yeah. Like I wanted to die, you know. Yeah, and once I thought I was having really bad period cramps, and I was having appendicitis. That was interesting.
That's pretty different, like slightly different. Appendicitis.
But I've never had bad cramps before, and so I was actually in graduate school at the time for acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and most of the doctors there are actually physically they're trained MDs as well as herbalists and Chinese medicine doctors, and so I went to one who was an MD. And she palpated, there's a certain thing you do to check if it's appendicitis. And she was like, yeah, you're having an appendicitis attack. And I never got my appendix out. She actually treated me with acupuncture and herbs, which is really fascinating. But
wow.
But I thought it was a really bad period.
No.
So I stayed in the bathroom kind of embarrassed because I was like, pooping my brains out and bleeding. Like the whole thing was just messy.
It's so like, what's happening?
I'm just going to stay in the bathroom. And then I thought I was going to pass out. So I was like, let me go to the clinic because there's a clinic on campus. And I walked back to the one and I was like, I don't feel good. And she laid me down and I was like, I think it's bad cramps. And then she palpated me. She's like, no, appendicitis.
Appendicitis. That's what's up. Wow.
So, yeah.
All right. Last question. If you were trapped on an island, what would be the 3 items that you can live without?
I gave this some thought too, because it's.
I mean, when else? I mean, when do you ever have to think about that? I mean, it makes sense. It's like I don't know.
So I was thinking coconuts because I really can't live without coconut oil for my skin and coconut oil to cook with, and I love coconut milk.
Yes.
So one coconut would really help, or several coconuts, a coconut tree perhaps. I can't live without eggs, and I think they're really, really, really important for our health. So I was thinking maybe a chicken.
Yeah.
I constantly lay eggs, or a laying hen.
Yes. Just one. Don't die, chicken. Don't die.
Yeah, and then it would probably be my, I know coconut oil would work for my skin, but maybe my anti-aging facial oil because it's got a little sunblock in there. Probably my husband and my baby, too. If we can ask for people, too, but...
you can ask for people.
So then for sure, my little family... A chicken and a coconut tree.
The coconut. That's it. That's all you need.
That's all I need.
That's all you need. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for
thank you so
interviewing
much.
with us. Where can we find your products? Your book?
AimeeRaupp.com has everything.
Okay.
AIMEERAUPP.com. There's my books are on there, my blog, my YouTube channel, my skincare line. And then you can find me at Aimee Raupp on Instagram and on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
Of course. Same here.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, it was great talking to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.